Hey guys, I'm here today with Clate. He's the Keep CEO and founder you may have known as Infusionsoft. He's been educating and inspiring entrepreneurs for over a decade and is recognized by the small business community as a visionary leader. His passion for small business success stems from his personal experience taking Infusionsoft from a struggling startup to an 8-time Inc. 500 winner. As CEO, Clate is leading Infusionsoft on its mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses worldwide. Under his leadership, Keep, formerly known as Infusionsoft, has landed 4 rounds of venture capital, including a $55 million Series D led by Bain Capital Ventures, with contributions from prior investors, Signal Peak Adventures, Goldman Sachs. He was named as Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, a top 100 business influencer by Small Business Trends, one of the 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs of 2013 by Goldman Sachs, and Business Leader of the Year by the Arizona Technology Council. He's an international speaker on entrepreneurship and small business success, and a co-author of the New York Times bestseller, Conquer the Chaos: How to Grow a Successful Small Business Without Going Crazy. Clate has a BA in Economics from Arizona State University, as well as an MBA and a JD from Brigham Young University. My friend, I am super excited to have you on the show and really excited to learn how you've grown this business so far.
Great, Josh, great to be here. Thanks so much for that intro. That sounded pretty impressive.
It always does when you look at your history like that, doesn't it?
That's fun. Thanks for doing that. I'm happy to be with you.
Clate, just for our own understanding, how did this journey start for you? When did you go into the entrepreneurial space, full stop?
Yeah, well, I've always had a desire to run my own business. That's from when I was young. But when I went through schooling, that kind of got derailed. I thought maybe I'd go in a different direction. And then shortly after I came out of school, I was working for a software company, and I got that entrepreneurial itch. I wanted to start my own thing. And so I joined up with a couple of my brothers-in-law, my wife's 2 younger brothers, and they were doing custom software for small businesses. And we started working together. That was about 17 years ago. And that's where it all started.
Okay, so how old are you when this was starting?
I was about 30.
30, okay. So you had a little bit of experience in the business space before you started your own business.
Yes, I'd done a few different things. Been in a lot of schooling. Had done different things on the side. Different startup things. But really, it was when I got into software and specifically helping small businesses in software, that's when I started to really get the itch.
Okay, and what kind of software were you guys developing initially? Was this developing for other people to own the software?
Yeah, so it was custom software in the early days. The early days of Infusionsoft was really just, it was a service business. We were trading hours for dollars, building out software for small businesses that wanted. Usually it was some kind of web-based solution that was helping them to do sales and marketing more effectively.
Okay, and that's what kind of built Infusionsoft to say, hey, hold up, we should be doing something ourselves here. Makes sense for the businesses. Yeah,
it took us a while. It took us a few years to kind of find our way. We were always serving small businesses. That's really always been our passion. We were doing custom projects, and then we started to notice that every custom project we were doing had a customer database at the heart of it. And so it started to become apparent to us that there was a need for this CRM software for small businesses, this customer relationship management. And so we started to move gradually into that space, and then we found that there was a need for kind of a marketing flavored CRM, and that's where Infusionsoft really started to be born.
Okay. And what was the process like after that? How did you start getting those initial customers through and start becoming to what it is today?
Yeah, so initially what happened was we started to serve these direct response marketers that were doing a lot of online marketing, offline marketing. They were trying to keep track of the responses that they would get and follow up with people in the right way, send the right message to the right person at the right time. And they were usually these customers they were pretty skilled marketers, so they were dealing with pretty large databases and a lot of contacts that they were managing, and that's where it really started. We were helping these direct response marketers do their marketing more effectively with a customer management system that would help them to keep track of everything. And they needed to do email marketing, they needed to process sales, they needed to follow up with people in the right ways. And they were using a lot of different systems to try to manage that. So we helped them to create an all-in-one, we created an all-in-one CRM sales and marketing system for those direct response marketers. And that's really where Infusionsoft was born.
Oh, wow, so it's good, really good, that direct response kind of flavor to it in its roots.
Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing. So going on from that, when you really started to take off, did you know was it like instant success with Infusionsoft, or was there a bit of stumbling blocks in terms of how it was accepted by the market?
Definitely wasn't instant success. It was about 5 years before from the time we started our business in 2002. It was about 5 years before we started to feel like, okay, we've got this product that's getting traction. People are loving this. It's working for them. Let's take this to the next level. And to that point, we had really bootstrapped it. We got the business to about $5-6 million a year in sales before we ever went out and raised venture capital. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. They think, oh yeah, you just went out and you raised venture capital, and I hear people say things like, well, sure, I could do that too if I went and raised this much money. Well, it's a lot harder than people think, and you need to, we had to get the business to a certain point before we could go raise capital. But it was a lot of hard work. Those first 3 years were as challenging and difficult as anything I could imagine.
How many customers did you guys have in the books before you even considered raising capital?
Oh, we had several hundred. I can't remember the exact number, but it was less than 1,000, but more than a couple hundred.
Okay. And when you did decide to raise capital, what was that for?
So it was to build out product and build out partnerships and customer acquisition. Those were the main things.
Okay. So what was the decision-making process? Because I'm assuming there's downsides to taking on investment partners as well.
Sure. I get this question all the time from entrepreneurs, and my answer is you should only raise capital if you feel like you've got a really big vision to build the business to, say, 100 million in sales, and B, you need to have the sense that if you don't move faster, then someone else might take that market opportunity. And then C, you got to also feel so convicted and passionate about that mission that you're up to that you're willing to have a boss. And those are three boxes that most entrepreneurs don't check and don't want to check. And I don't blame them one bit, right? It's like, hey, it's perfectly great to have a good, solid business that you don't plan on taking to 100 million in annual sales. And it's perfectly good to not want to have that investor that you report to as a boss. And it's perfectly good if it's desirable if you've got a market that isn't going away if you don't move fast enough. But those are really the three boxes to check. You got a big market opportunity and a big ambition to go after it. You got to move fast, and you're willing to. You feel so strongly about it that you're willing to have a boss.
That's pretty crazy. It's very special conditions to meet. Okay, so
yeah, and most entrepreneurs don't have a boss. That's why we get started in the first place, right? And yet, I'm in that boat too. I don't want to have a boss. I didn't start this business so I could have a boss. But the reality is, when you take investors' money, you've got to report to them. You're responsible for that, and they ask questions and they want to understand what's happening, and so you do have to take on that relationship if you're going to take capital and invest it into the business.
What was the biggest learning lessons for you in that process in dealing with investors and going from that series of funding to most recent series of funding?
Oh gosh, boy, we would need a lot of time to go through that. I think, the biggest thing is you're on the same side, but you do have interests that are a little bit different, and you have to understand that. As the entrepreneur, you have long-term interests. As an investor, it's a little bit shorter-term interest. Maybe not, it's not as challenging as it is when you are a public company and you report to Wall Street and you have a very short-term investor that cares about the next quarter. That's really tricky, and that's a challenge that I haven't taken on. But you do, as a founder, entrepreneur, you're thinking about the long term, and your investors are thinking about getting a return on their investment in some time horizon that's different than yours usually. So, to the extent that you can align those time horizons, you'll be more effective in working together with your investors. And certainly, if you treat them more as partners and not adversaries, you're going to do better.
It generally helps.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all happening on that side of the business. So, as you're growing customer base, how do you grow support staff? How do you start creating that culture in Infusionsoft? I'm sure it's a big move going from a small development company to dealing with lots and lots of staff, dealing with sales teams, yourself, and having so many people reporting to you. Yeah.
It's a really fun process. You cast a vision of what you're out to accomplish, and you get people aligned to that vision, and they get bought into the strategy of how you're doing that to sell and serve your customers. And the more you do that and the better you do that, the more roles there are, and the more that you expand the function. So obviously you got to build product and you got to serve customers. And when you do that well, you sell more and you market more effectively, and the business grows. So you start to take on all kinds of different roles when you do that. But it's a lot of fun. You build a team, and you build a team that you have high trust with and confidence in, and you can work together, and you grow the business from there.
How have you managed that transition in terms of the mental shifts and also dealing with your family at the same time?
Yeah, it's really tough. Every entrepreneur knows that balancing work and life is a real juggling act. And I think what I've found over the years is that balance is a tricky thing. You hear a lot of people kind of argue about whether it's even possible, or whether it's just semantics, or if it's really harmony, not balance that you're trying to. I mean, you hear it all different ways, and I'm not going to split hairs on what balance is or isn't. I think we all have a general notion that we can't allow work to swallow us whole and crowd out everything else in our lives. And so, what I would say is I've found that balance is impossible if your priorities aren't right. And if once you get clear on your priorities, then balance follows fairly naturally. So that's something in terms of making it all work with family. In terms of making it all work in the business and working with people, it comes down to really creating a culture that people are bought into, getting people aligned to that culture, the vision of the company. So we talk about that in terms of our purpose, our values, and our mission, and we hire people to that, and we coach people to that, and we fire people to that.
Okay. Let's talk about the transition, the rebrand. It's obviously very late into the company's history, or seemingly late from outsider's perspective. Why change the name from Infusionsoft, which so many people know and some may love and some may not, to something totally new? It's a great question. I get that. Thanks for letting me just talk about it for a minute. As you may know, we had a mission that we were on for about 10 years. Once we raised capital and really set the vision for the company, actually I should say that differently. Once we really set the vision for the company and then raised capital, and that's important because your vision must precede any capital you raise. But we set the vision and we raised capital, and then we had this 10-year plan, and we called it our Everest mission. And that Everest mission ended
on January 1st of 2017. And that kicked off a new mission for us. And that new mission, which we call our Mars mission, is to simplify growth for millions of small businesses worldwide. And in order to do that, we knew that we needed to create a lighter, easier version of Infusionsoft. The market had been asking for it for a while. We got really clear that we needed to do that, and we took on that challenge, and we began doing that product work. And last year, when we started to put that product into the market, we recognized that, as we began to come up with the name for that product, we started to realize that most small businesses that start with our product suite will begin with that lighter, easier version of the software. And Infusionsoft stands for power. It's very powerful CRM, sales and marketing automation. But there was a little bit of a disconnect between the version of the software we were creating and that very powerful version of Infusionsoft. And that disconnect wouldn't matter if we didn't have a mission to serve millions. But when you think about serving millions, you need to have a brand and an image of easy to get started, easy to grow with. And so we started to think about this product name where most of our customers over the next decade plus would start out with us. And we realized it would be wise to have the company name match that product name. So the short answer is we changed the name because we have a mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses. And we wanted a simple, easy brand that could convey that. And so we created the new product, called it Keep, and decided to name the company Keep as well. And our Infusionsoft product is on the high end of it's the edition of our software that's on the high end of the Keep product line.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Big decision, but
yeah,
let's understand the logic behind it when you put it that way.
Yeah, it is a big decision. And, people will say to me sometimes, we think you just changed it because your board forced you to, or you had other people in the company that said you had to, and or my favorite of all of them, people sometimes call you Confusionsoft, and so you're trying to run away from that. And it's like, no. The people that are confused by Infusionsoft are the people who need that lighter, easier version of our software, and that's what we created. And the reason we changed the name of the company was because of this mission to serve millions of small businesses. And I love the brand. The brand of Keep is absolutely the essence of that Keep brand is absolutely the same essence that we've always had at Infusionsoft, which is our purpose to help small businesses succeed, and this passion that we have to help small businesses grow. And that is the essence of the Keep brand. And there's a whole story that goes behind it. But as you know, our message to the world is keep going when things get tough, keep serving those clients of yours, and keep growing, because it's all about small business growth.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the story behind how you actually got the name Keep itself is actually pretty cool in itself.
Yeah, you want me to share that?
I would love you to share that story. It's such a great story to share.
Yeah, you bet. So, just running and growing a small business is really hard. And our experience with our customers for now 17 years is that most successful small businesses, at some point, the business owner wanted to quit. And in many cases, they would have quit, but for some reason they couldn't. But the challenges are so great that attraction to quit the business is super strong. And I certainly felt that in our early days. There were many days where I just felt like this is crazy. Those first 3 years, as I mentioned, they were so intense and so hard. And about 18 months in, I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. And I had my moment where we started using our software that we had built for our customers. We started using the automation parts of it. We had been using the organization parts, the parts that helped us to be more clear about who our customers were and our leads and how we were working with them. But we hadn't begun using the automation. And I started using it, and I just saw what an absolute game changer it was for us. And that caused me to have the courage and the confidence and the desire to continue with the business. But for my wife at home, who was taking care of 4 kids and working like crazy and supporting an entrepreneur who seemed a bit delusional, and I probably was, because I kept saying things are getting better, and she would say, well, not getting better for us, but it was at work things were getting better, but it wasn't translating to take home pay. And we were struggling financially like crazy. We were really on the verge of bankruptcy. And Charisse just said to me, look, I can't do it anymore. And one night we were talking, and I had convinced her again and again and again to stick with it and hang in there. And one night she just said, I just can't. I can't go on. I can't continue doing this. You have to promise me that tomorrow when you go to work, you will look for a job. And I had fended off the go get a real job request / plea / demand many times. But on this night, I realized that, she was at the end of her rope. And so I said, okay, I will. And this was a very intense conversation, lots of tears, very hard. And I said, okay, I will. So the next day I went to work, and I got into my office and I sat down. And as is so often the case with entrepreneurs, my work just swallowed me whole that day. And I didn't do any job searching, and it was time to go home. And I realized, shoot, I haven't done what I said I was going to do. And I felt really badly about that. And I felt really concerned about how Charisse was going to take that news. So that drive home was very scary. I was very worried. And I walked into the house that day and will never, ever forget what happened. I walked in to the kitchen, and her back was to me, and she turned around, and she said, in a very serious tone, she said, did you look for a job today? And I said, no. And she walked toward me and came up to me, and she gave me a huge hug, and she said, just keep going. Everything's going to be okay. Just keep going. And we sat there and embraced, and I literally we were crying, and there's a whole deep story as to what had changed for her that day. But suffice it to say, when she was once again in my corner, I felt like we could accomplish anything together, and we kept going. And that story is my story about keep going. But every entrepreneur that's successful has their story, or many stories like it. And I share my story as for people to understand the passion that exists behind our company to help small businesses keep going, keep serving, and keep growing their business.
That's incredible, Clate.
Thank you.
On the health side of things, how have you managed to maintain your health and fitness whilst building a growing company? Or have you been able to?
I have been able to. I haven't always been great at it. My health's gone up and down a little bit at times, but generally I've been in pretty good shape, and it's not because it just happened. It's not because I have good genes. I do have good genes probably, but that's not why. I'll tell you why my genes are good. I'll tell you a quick story. In the early days of the business, when I was about 6 or 8 months in here, and we're struggling like crazy. And my job was to do the sales and marketing, and actually my job was to do everything except write software. And my 3 partners, their job was to write software and do nothing else. And so I was responsible for bringing in new business, and I was struggling like crazy at that. And one day I just kind of had a breakdown, and we were struggling at home financially. We didn't have any savings. We were getting deeper and deeper into debt, and I needed to sell, and I needed to sell effectively. And I went over to I called my dad up and said, hey, can I talk to you? And he said, yeah, come over for lunch tomorrow. And so I did. I went over to my dad's house, and it was just me and him talking, and I found myself just pouring out my heart to my dad. And I was kind of a blubbering mess, to be honest. And I got done with kind of 10 minutes of just pouring my heart out and talking about how hard it was and the pressure I felt trying to provide for my family and my 4 kids, and had a mountain of student debt that I was responsible for, and a wife who was trying to be supportive, and she was working like crazy trying to take care of our kids and do a little bit of odd jobs and work on the side. And I just, I poured out my heart, and I kind of collected myself and got done and waited for my dad's response, and he was just sitting in silence. And I paused and kind of waited for him to say something. And what he said was it struck me in such a way, but it was a huge gift he gave me. And what he said was, after all that I'd said, the struggles of selling, all the financial struggles, everything I said, my dad's wise response was, "Are you exercising?" And I said, "No, I don't have time. I'm too stressed. I'm too worried. I'm, working my fingers to the bone. I can't even consider exercising right now," because in my mind that seemed like, something you do when you have time. And my dad said, "Okay." And frankly, I was kind of ticked at my dad, because I was like, "Did you not hear what I said? I need advice. I need help on being successful in business." And so he said, "Well, what are you doing tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.?" And I said, "Well, I'll either be worrying or sleeping, but and he said, "Well, let's go to the gym." And I said, "Well, I don't have money for a gym membership." And he said, "Well, I'll pay for a gym membership, but you got to get out of bed and come with me to the gym." And he taught me a lot in that situation, and we worked out together, and we had some amazing conversations about business as I worked out my muscles and worked out my body. I just found that we get so trapped inside of ourselves as entrepreneurs that exercise is crucial. It's just critical for us to free up our minds and to get the chemistry right in our bodies so we can think and breathe. And he taught me something amazing, and ever since then I've been pretty darn good at exercising. There may be times where I'm off a little bit, but today you'll find me at 5:30 in either the gym doing cardio, or on other days I do CrossFit. So I tend to work out 5 days a week, and it's either cardio or CrossFit, and it's been a huge blessing for me. That's helped me to eat better and helped me to stay on top of my fitness.
That's a nice early start. What does your typical day look like for you now, Clate?
So I generally wake up at around 5:30. Right now it's summertime, so I'm able to wake up a little later, 5:30, 6 at the latest. But the reason is that I have a pretty specific morning routine with my family, and so I wake up and do my own workout, and then I'll do a little bit of planning, and I'm a religious guy, so I read scripture and pray, and I do that on my own. And then generally in the school year we do it in the morning. I'll do that with a little bit of scripture reading with my family before making them their lunches and taking them to school. But in the summertime they sleep in, so we do that at different times of the day, and that's why I get to sleep in maybe an extra half an hour or 45 minutes on in the summertime. But generally I wake up at 5 a.m., exercise, meditate, scripture, so I'll read, I pray, and plan for the day.
That's cool. Outside of Infusionsoft, do you have any other investments, or how do you manage your income and your investment portfolio?
Yeah, so I love to support entrepreneurs and help entrepreneurs grow. So I do have some investments in entrepreneurs, and then we started it's called the Arizona Founders Fund. About 10 entrepreneurs here started a fund that backs Arizona technology companies. So I've got about 8 or 10 investments through that group, and then another 8 or 10 investments where I've invested directly. But those are the companies that I invest in, and then I'll generally be on a couple of boards at a time, where they are SaaS companies, and my experience can be really helpful to them. But I can't do too much of that because Keep is certainly requires my time and focus and attention, and we've got a really big mission that we're up to, and I'm very excited about taking the Keep product platform out to the world.
So when do you feel you'll have achieved that mission, and what does that mean for you once you have?
That mission is literally is to simplify growth for 5 million small businesses worldwide by the year 2030. So when we kicked off on that mission at the beginning of 2017, it was a 13-year long-term mission, and we felt like it would probably take us that long to get to 5 million small businesses that we're serving and helping to grow. But for us, that's a big multi-billion-dollar company, and my passion and fire is to go make that happen over the next decade plus. And I love doing what we're doing. I love helping small businesses grow. So that's what we're up to.
Okay. And at that point, what does your role become? Do you still see yourself taking Infusionsoft well into your older age, or will you be on?
That's a great question. I haven't made a determination beyond 2030, but I don't know if I'll be the CEO or the chairman of the board at that point, but I definitely want to be involved very heavily in the strategy and vision and direction of the company until 2030. After that, we'll see what happens.
It's amazing. Clate, final question for you. If people want to learn more about growing their own small business, what's the best resource for them to do in the whole Keep universe at the moment?
Yeah, well, the best thing to do is go to keep.com. We have a section at the top of the website that has a bunch of resources, and that really helps. Our mission is to simplify growth, and it really comes down to deconstructing the complexities of small business growth. And as you said at the beginning, we wrote a book called Conquer the Chaos: How to Grow a Successful Small Business Without Going Crazy. And what happens is most small businesses get buried in the challenges and the complexity. We call it the chaos, and they swim in that chaos, and it's characterized by disorganization, dropped balls, and duplicate work that really buries the efficiency and effectiveness of the business, and it hamstrings their growth. But the answer is to get a system to grow your business that will help you to be organized, to follow up, and to automate that manual work. And at the heart of it all, as you know, is follow-up. And so that's really what we do. We help small businesses grow by getting organized, following up, and automating. And we teach them the basics and fundamentals of follow-up. But if you want to grow your business, you need to follow up. And another way to say it is, if you follow up effectively with prospects and customers, you will grow your business. And that's how we have grown our business, by helping small businesses grow through that effective follow-up. And it's what we love to do. And if listeners go to keep.com and they want to conquer their chaos, they can do that by going to our website at keap.com.
Clate, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, until next time, go and check Keep out. It is an amazing product with an amazing story, and as you've heard, an incredible founder story as well. So until next time, we'll see you on the next show.
Thanks, Josh.